to all of your questions on that question, I would encourage you to head over to remnantnewspaper.com, where we continue to present both sides of this thing, this Trump dilemma. I think that's what we're really obligated to do before our audience. Present both sides, not in the sense of, there is no truth in this matter, but because there's so much gray area, to do the best we can to present all the arguments based on Catholic principle, because this is a true dilemma that we now face. The great Catholic philosopher Edward Feser just pointed out in an excellent piece that he wrote called "Trump Has Put Social Conservatives in a Dilemma." It's a fantastic article. We'll link to it down here. I want you to check it out. And he does the same thing, by the way, trying to present both sides of this thing, this really, really difficult issue. It is indeed a dilemma, whether some among us want to admit that or not. A guy like Edward Feser is a Catholic philosopher. He's been given more thought to this than probably any of us, and he calls it a dilemma. What does that mean? Not that he's not giving it enough thought, not that he hasn't thought of the ramifications of a Harris-Walz victory, not that he doesn't think that Donald Trump is better than those two clowns. He's thought through all of this and still presents it as a very serious conscience issue, a moral dilemma, So again, some of you don't see it that way. That's fine. I understand you're arguing the merits of voting lesser of two evils, which, as I explained last week, I think is being bandied about way too much right now. We're going to find out why I think that, in my opinion. But some of you don't see it as I do. And I completely understand. And I'm not at all saying you're a moral reprobate or you're reckless or irresponsible if you go, I don't know, man. I got to vote for Trump. I got a house full of little kids. I'm scared. I'm going to vote for Trump. This is, I totally get that. I've got friends. I've got family. I even have remnant columnists who agree with you. So let's keep that in mind as we kind of forge ahead here. I know this debate, eventually we're going to have to kind of calm things down and move on to the next thing, but it's really snowballing right now, largely because people are legitimately and understandably afraid of what's going to happen, okay? So we all agree, for example, let's get rid of the sort of the name calling or the sarcastic little smarmy shots. You think Kamala Harris is better. You want Kamala Harris. You hate Trump. You want Walz Harris. Let's stop. Let's stop with that. That's not true. That's not, especially not for me. That's not true. I've never been a never Trumper. So you got to start asking the questions. Why are these people who've been supporting him for a long time, why are they suddenly asking very serious questions, right? Kamala Harris is a total disaster. We all know that. We also all know exactly what is at stake here. So it doesn't have to be pointed out. Don't you understand what's going to happen to the border? Don't you understand what's going to happen to us? Don't you understand what's going to happen to this country? Yeah, we sure do. So let's just cut to the chase. Under a Harris-Walz administration, a show like ours and a lot of other shows out there on the internet right now could very well be shut down. Absolutely. I personally have been on this show has been on the FBI watch list for years. I've been on the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate map since 2007. So I went through a lot of this fear, about what they're trying to do, intimidation, and trying to get you on this on their little list and their hate. We went through a long time ago. We went through it back in 2007. So I'm giving you the benefit of my experience. We've been dealing with this for a very, very long time. We know what they're capable of. We understand the very real threat that's out there, but we still have to have this discussion. So I know exactly what is at stake here, believe me, which is why dilemma is the word, to use Edward Feser's word. That's what it is. We're talking about a very real moral dilemma, what to do. And we all understand that. Whether we agree with one another or not, we all understand that dilemma, so we need to keep the thing together, keep this together. Because no matter what happens in November, we are going to need each other in the years ahead. We need to keep the movement together, the folks together, the clans together. So maybe some of you, right now then, when you hear me say this, oh, wait a minute, he does get it. He does understand what's going to happen to this country if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz get it. Yeah. So why is Michael Matt then taking this stand right now when he of all people stands to lose so much? If Trump wins, if Trump loses in November, people like Remnant TV, Michael Matt have a lot to lose, right? Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom, all this. We're going to lose it under these guys, right? That's a good question. And I would say very briefly, you're right, because this was me just 4 years ago.
When for the first time in the history of this country, a sitting president of the United States walked out onto that mall, and he stood with about 200,000 or 300,000 of us. And what did he say? Looking again into the eyes of the Christophobic, anti-life, anti-family, anti-God world, he said, "We believe that every child, born and unborn, is a gift from Almighty God." This is possibly the most counter-revolutionary thing ever said in the past 50 years in this country. And they never forgave him for that either.
And the question is why I say, of course, why is this happening? It is happening. There's a direct parallel to what's happening in the church, the Catholic Church, and what's happening right now in the Republican Party and conservative politics in America. And that's what I'm talking about. And the reason that we're being surveilled by the FBI, for example, is because the Vatican sold us out. Okay? The Vatican, as you all know, is run by globalists. Pope Francis is a mega globalist. That's all he cares about is globalists and the Great Reset and the whole New World Order experiment, right? So the Vatican is attempting to isolate their opposition, which is all those who have held on to the old faith, to conservatism in the church, if you will. I don't like the word, but you know what I mean. Traditionalists. They're trying to isolate the traditionalists, the opposition, by positing and by suggesting and kind of floating it out there that only extremist fringe groups are still holding on to the old Christian order, or to the old conservatism, if you will, if you want to use a political term. So consequently, we are losing, as Catholics right now, we are losing our protection, the protection of our own church. We can't stand behind our own church anymore. And the corrupt FBI knows it. They get to do whatever they want. Because at the moment, Jim Jordan and Josh Hawley do more to protect Catholics than the American bishops do, for example. So weakened has the church become. Okay? So we understand what happens with compromise. We understand even the physical threat, the fear that comes with losing your church, losing your protection, the institutions of protection of the common good, right? Suddenly, we as Catholics have no place to hide, no grounds for conscientious objection. Or as we all saw during COVID, no grounds even for religious exemption from vaccination, experimental vaccination, right? Pope Francis made sure of that. You see how it works? And what am I talking about? What am I getting at? Well, Mr. Pro-lifer, you're next. Well, Mrs. Pro-traditional marriage, you're next in America. It's coming for you now. And this is the concern. So pay attention here. This is what we are talking about. Nobody is saying we should vote, that it's not going to be worse under Kamala, but what we're saying, something else is at work, something much bigger. And this forms that dilemma, again, that Fezer's talking about. Because by cutting Bible-based social conservatism out of the Republican platform, something similar is happening to conservatives in this country, or is about to happen, as has happened to traditional Catholics who are now being investigated by the FBI. Something similar. And what is that? Team Trump and the Republican Party are isolating social conservatives. We're right on the cusp. We're right on the beginning of this. It's already happening to some extent. It's going to happen in steroids very soon. And it's not going to happen just for 4 years under the Harris administration. See, this is what I mean. We got to think down the road, way beyond November. And a lot of you are confused by that. Man, don't you know it's coming up in November? If we lose to Harris, it's all over. Okay, if we lose to Harris, yeah, we're gonna have a hellish 4 years, no doubt about that. On the other hand, we already lived through Biden. We already lived through Barack Obama, who's the sort of the chief cook and bottle washer of all of this. We lived through the Clintons, right? So probably we're going to be okay under a Harris thing. Not okay, but we're going to make it under a Harris administration so long as we hold together the serious, principled, God-centered, Christocentric opposition. You see? We're not talking about just 4 years. We're talking about permanently if we lose that. Permanently we lose. We lose the war. That's what we're concerned about. So as the Republican Party now abandons Bible-based positions on abortion and homosexual marriage, for example, you, my friend, and I, and our children, and our friends, and our family will become increasingly isolated, increasingly fringe, right? Increasingly radical, of course. without any sort of cover from a legitimate party, mainstream party that's known for being conservative, socially conservative on things like abortion and gay marriage, right? And if you hang on, first you're going to be labeled an extremist, already happening. And if you persist, you'll be categorized as a domestic terrorist threat. That's what we're concerned about with this stripping of the Republican Party of the social conservatism, the Bible-based issues over which we as Christians are called to die before we sell out on. It's a big problem for us. We will have no political party platform behind which to hide very soon if something doesn't happen to stop this. The 2016 platform mentions God 15 times. The 2024 Republican platform mentions him twice. The 2016 platform has 9 powerful statements in defense of the unborn. The 2024 platform removes virtually all of the 2016 pro-life language, including the explicit application of the 14th Amendment to the unborn, and then goes on to positively mention birth control and IVF. The 2016 platform defines marriage as, wait for it, between one man and one woman. The 2024 platform drops any definition of marriage at all. The 2016 platform supported abstinence education. The 2024 platform says nothing about abstinence education. The 2016 platform goes on to condemn internet pornography. The 2024 platform says nothing about pornography. So this brings up the question. There's a lot of chit-chat about the lesser and greater of two evils. I don't think most people understand what that truly means. Hopefully we'll get to that tonight. But instead of asking what's the lesser of two evils, let's ask what's the greater of two evils? What's the greater of two evils? What's the bigger concern here for all of us? And again, I'm trying to give you the concern that I have and a lot of people have, right? We're going to get to whether or not you can vote for Donald Trump and whether or not it's morally obligatory not to or to vote for Trump. But what's the greater evil? What we're arguing is that voting for the permanent abolition of a socially conservative force, a socially conservative party in this country, one that respects the law of God and the law of nature, voting to abolish that could be no, in my opinion, friends, it is the greater evil. That's the concern. You think we can hang on to that once we get rid of all this stuff about abortion and gay marriage and start accepting IVF and contraception and divorce and everything else? You think we're ever going to be able to put that genie back in the bottle? Of course not. That's the slope that we're on right now. That's where this ends up. And as we pointed out last time, Barack Obama and Teddy Kennedy at one point were very much against abortion, supposedly. Very much against gay marriage, some of these issues. And they completely, once they were on that slippery slope, turned into a slide, right, into hell. And that's the concern, that's where we're going on in order to prevent something bad from happening to us in November. And again, traditional Catholics have already gone through this. At Vatican II, we watched as the Catholic Church watered down her dogma and her liturgy especially to make it palatable and acceptable to whom? To Protestants. That was the whole point. That's how they undid the Catholic Church. That's how they trashed the Catholic Church. That's how they equalized, leveled the playing field. Okay, so similarly, right now, Team Trump, the GOP, the Republican Party, they're watering down social conservatism in the same way right now, to make it palatable and acceptable to Democrats, which is why guys like Bill Maher are kind of like, yeah, well, you shouldn't be so mean to Robert Kennedy, heck of a guy. Somebody like Elon Musk says, yeah, man, I totally endorse Donald Trump now. When that starts happening, you have to be concerned. Why is what passes for conservatism now becoming very, very acceptable to Democrats of yesterday? You see? That's easy. You see the Republicans going after partial birth abortion all the time now. Well, whatever happened to abortion? Well, the same thing that happened to contraception. They used to be against contraception. That long time ago abandoned that. Then they were against abortion. Long time ago abandoned that. Then they were against abortion only in the later months, right? Now it's partial birth abortion. We saw that just the other night on the debate floor. Wouldn't it have been great to have Donald Trump show the same fervor for the lives of babies as he did for the lives of cats in Ohio? You got to admit, that's what happened. Well, we'll toss it to the states. kind of a Pontius Pilate move, But you guys can just decide on that one, because that's not, we got real issues here, like the border, not the lives of babies. The states can handle that. You see what's happened? And then IVF, that's fine. Abortion pills, that's fine, says J.D. Vance, says Donald Trump. Abortion pills are fine. 63%, according to Guttmacher, 63% of abortions right now are as a result of that horrific pill that the Republicans, including Trump and Vance, are now saying, yeah, it's a medication that should be handed out. We support that.
The federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it.
So people say, well, yeah, it's just posturing, they got to get elected, Friends, that's just not the way it works. If you say that, you don't understand you don't understand politics. You don't understand, for example, what a political party's platform is, even. The platform is what is the thing that defines the politician's core beliefs. That's what he stands on. That's why it's called a platform, right? You got planks in there that build the platform. This is what supports him. It's what he's running on, right? What the politicians stand for is the platform. And we need to stand up, and pay attention now when the Republicans change their platform dramatically and remove language such as this, that the unborn child has a fundamental individual right to life which cannot be infringed. They removed it. That's not just not paying attention to the abortion thing because it's politically controversial. You've changed what you believe about life, and you've taken it out of your platform. We no longer believe that. They removed it. And then what are they doing instead? They formalize support for IVF, in vitro fertilization, right? Again, in their platform, IVF, which destroys more human embryos every year than abortion does. And when we're talking about lesser of two evils still, well, is this evil lesser enough to justify voting for abortion like this? And by the way, in case you're saying he's just faking it, well, that's becoming a stretch. That is becoming a real stretch. Oh, he's just faking it in order to get elected. It's just vice signaling to get in. Don't be an idiot, man, right? Well, not according to Donald Trump's son, Eric Trump. Because according to him, what we're seeing now in the Republican platform, the way it's been stripped down of all references to Christian moral theology, according to Eric Trump, this is right where dear old dad has always been.
The Republican platform, interestingly, has moved to the center on a couple of key issues. For the first time in 40 years, the Republican platform does not call for a federal abortion ban. It no longer defines marriage as between one man and one woman, but it doesn't. So is this a sign that your father is moving to the center in some ways or on some issues?
Yes, I think he's always been there on those issues, to tell you the truth. And I think that's reflective of who my father is and what he believes in. And I think that's reflective of my wife, Laura, who runs the RNC, and clearly what she believes in. And I'm proud of the party. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, this country has real holes in the roof, and you've got to fix those holes, and you've got to stop worrying about the little, spot on the wall in the basement.
I know it's all you gotta just be strong.
And if that's not bad enough, friends, the GOP platform also no longer supports traditional marriage. As I explained to you last week, as of 2016, they were still defending marriage as one man. They had a definition in the platform, marriage between one man and one woman. So people say, how could you support Trump in 2016? Because all that was in there still. That's what they said they believed in. So for me as a practicing Catholic, as a Bible, as a Christian, it was easy to support them. Okay, all of this stuff is still in the platform. They're giving lip service to pro-life. Of course we can see where this goes, no problem. But all of that has changed now. They even removed reference to any support for traditional marriage, which, I'm sorry, but this is not surprising. After Donald Trump actually trotted his Catholic wife out to tell the world what Donald Trump actually thinks on the question of gay marriage.
As the leader of the Republican Party, and President of the United States, Donald has been clear that gays and lesbians will be treated as he has always treated them, equally. Donald is the first president to enter the White House supporting gay marriage.
Now, friends, this hurts. Okay, I get it. And I know what you're thinking. Yeah, well, Kamala Harris is a demon. I agree. We're not just talking about dead babies now and abortion. We're not just talking about Kamala. We're not just talking about Donald Trump. We are talking about us. What is going to happen to us in our hearts and in our Catholic souls, our Christian minds, if we continue to go along with this? It's getting worse and worse and worse. But that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Like, what happens if all of a sudden one day we don't have anybody to vote for? You scary? Yeah, that's scary. That's terrifying. We're gonna get to that in a moment. But I want you to understand that I get it. This is the nature of the revolution. Most of the responsibility lies at the feet, in my opinion, of the Catholic Church, of the Vatican, of guys like Francis. Yes, of course.
Ma il mio Dio è più importante del tuo.
But my God is more important than your God.
È vero quello?
Is that true?
C'è un solo Dio lì. E noi sono idiomi, cammino, lingue per arrivare a Dio.
There's only one God, and each of us is a language, so to speak, in order to arrive at God.
Qualcuno è Sikh, qualcuno musulmano, qualcuno
Muslim,
Hindi, qualcuno cristiano,
Indo,
ma sono
Christian.
diversi cammini.
There are different paths.
They're the ones that are allowing all of this to go on. And the politicians are just like, well, okay, it was all fake and gay, so we can do whatever we want. Who cares about the Catholic Church? Yes, we've been saying that for 50 years, that it's going to end up here without a strong Catholic Church. So we get it, and we know who's to blame. But that does not excuse us doing things that would violate our conscience. So we become essentially them. How many times have I talked about that on the show? I've ended shows this way. Don't ever become them. Because then there's no way back. Then it's all over. Then the 12 just or the 10 just men of Sodom are gone. And there's no reason in the world why we can expect God to save us. So what we're looking at right now in politics in America, and this is the concern. This is why, again, Fezer uses the word dilemma. What we are looking at is a conscience issue. We're looking at formal rejection of God's law in the official political platform of the last surviving conservative political party in this country. That is what we are looking at. A rejection of the moral law of God, a rejection of the natural law as well. Now, we're not just talking about demon Democrats rejecting God and his law. No. So don't try to use that little easy escape hatch. Democrats are worse. Yes, they are. And that's all to be expected from them. They sold their souls to the devil decades ago. We expect nothing from them but lies, right? The bigger problem is they no longer, if this continues, they will no longer have any serious opposition. You know, the good guys are going to sell out. There won't be the lesser of two evils. It's just going to be all evil, right? That's what we're concerned. What we are actually concerned about then, friends, not the next few months. Of course, that's concerning. But we're talking about the long haul. We're talking about the war. What we're concerned about here is apostasy. A lot of people out there on the internet, on our side, want to talk about Thomas Aquinas as though they've studied him when they haven't. Right? But they want to talk about Thomas Aquinas. You know what Thomas Aquinas says? You know what he holds as the greatest of all evils? You want to talk about the greatest evil? It's apostasy. It's the sin of apostasy, according to him. And that's where our concern is. What if we suddenly, inadvertently, just sort of compromise ourselves into a de facto apostasy here? You see the problem?
Tell me, friend, when did Saruman the Wise abandon reason for madness?
If Trump wins on this fatal compromise, the thing that he promised that he would support, the lives of babies, God, Christ, family, right? If he compromises on all of that, the grassroots movement of God, life, and family will be shattered and annihilated in this country. Christian Americans will have lost whatever political representation they had, and it was slipping away already. It's going to be gone if we go along with this without a protest. If we go along with this, in my opinion, at all. We simply cannot let this happen. I don't care how much we like Donald Trump and Make America Great Again and the red hats and all the stuff that happened, right? It's fantastic. We cannot let this happen. And that's why, friends, I'm telling you, everybody should be on the same page here. I'm going to, hopefully, we'll be asked in the questions that are coming up now. Am I telling you can't vote? Of course not. What I'm telling you is that we've got 2 months to try to make a difference here. 2 months. 2 months out still. We need to be shouting at the Trump team. We need to be shouting at the Republican Party to stop this bargain with the devil right now. Morally, it's wrong. Politically, it's stupid because it's suicidal and it will not work. We just saw that the other night at that debate. In moving away from all of this, what got him there in the first place, remember, we gave him the victory. He said he would stay with us, but we're the ones that gave him the ideas on what's a winning solution. God, country, family, life, right? And moving away from all that, the stuff that gave him the victory in 2016, he begins to look weak, doesn't he? And unable to even outsmart a pair of earrings on that idiot airhead Kamala Harris or the ABC talking heads. Can't even outsmart them? Really? That's the excuse we're going to use now? Well, yeah, they tricked him. He's Donald Trump. He should have destroyed those people. And the amount of times that they were interrupting him and making him look foolish, if it had been me, I would have said, one more time, David Muir, and I'm off this stage. I'm gone. I really think he should have tried that. Instead, he just sits there because his core beliefs are failing. He's decided to compromise the core beliefs of this movement. And so he looks weak. He's trying to be like them, be palatable with them. And it doesn't work. And quite frankly, I am tired of hearing that Trump's monumental failures, like the other night was, that those are our fault. The failure at the election in 2020 was our fault for some reason. The midterms 2022, that's the pro-lifers' fault. Getting kind of tired of that. Donald Trump lost that because of his compromise.
Gavi operates with great transparency, and Boris Johnson is somebody with tremendous respect for you and everything you do. He called, he said, you think you could do something maybe around the Oval Office or right by the Oval Office? I said, why not? It happens to be right behind me. As the coronavirus has shown, there are no borders. It doesn't discriminate. It's mean, it's nasty, but we're going to all take care of it together. It's great to be partnering with you. We will work hard. We will work strong. Send my regards to Boris, and good luck. Let's get the answer.
He will lose this next election if he keeps going down this road, in my opinion. And that's just how I see it. I think there is something that can be done about it, which is why tonight I want to take your questions to see if what I'm saying holds up and to see if maybe I'm missing something. In any case, hopefully to come out the other side of tonight's show like absolutely convinced that we all are together on the same page as pro-lifers, as Christians, demanding that Team Trump stop this insanity while there's still time. So, to your questions. We start with, I guess, Tess, you've got the questions. This is Tess Mullins.